helping it, and Jill Stein is the president of the Green Shadow Cabinet.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you all so much for being here today. I think it's a real sign of persistence and courage and vision that we made it through the ice and the snow, some of us coming from very far away. Those who came from closer, I think, even had a harder time. But, you know, this is what it's going to take to fight the powers that be in the circumstances that we're in. And I am just really grateful to those who made this happen, who started this coalition. I think it's very exciting that we see this gathering of groups across the spectrum. These are anti-poverty, food security, climate justice, economic justice, labor, you name it, across the board, and peace groups, which have all come together to say, enough of being pitted against each other. That's the name of the game. It's time for us to join together. And so we're calling it a budget for people, peace, and planet, because it will take all of those in order to make it work for any of those. So we consider this just a beginning, and we're really delighted that people could be here today to kick this off. We're grateful to Congressman Grayson, who found the room for us. This was not easy to do, and we're very grateful that we actually found a little corner in the Capitol building that would allow us to hold this gathering, and we're very grateful to the real press, the alternative media, who are here today to cover this. And I think, you know, one of the biggest things happening here is that we are breaking the silence. We are breaking the illusion that there is approval for this budget. This budget, which again gives away the store to the military, with 53% of discretionary expenditures going to the military, at the same time that you know, our essential needs are being thrown under the bus. People are being thrown under the bus, and these two things go together. We cannot both feed the hungry, feed our children, feed our elders, and feed us, and feed this absolutely bottomless pit of the military machine. So we have to make a choice, not only in terms of our economics, but also in terms of the kind of world that we want to live in. And if you talk to people on the street, no one agrees with this policy of permanent and pervasive war. No one agrees with it. No one agrees with the devastating cuts that are being inflicted on children, on elders, on the sick, on the hungry, on our students, on people who are struggling to keep a roof over their heads, on our public schools. No one agrees with that. So, you know, what's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with this picture is that, you know, we lack a democratic governance. And following up on the concept of Human Rights Day, it just turns out that Human Rights Day this year, it's an international holiday, and this year the UN has declared that Human Rights Day is about our right to participate in democratic governance. So, you know, this is sort of at the crux of what we are trying to do, is to restore this promise of democracy, which is essential for us to have a budget which truly reflects our needs, and the peaceful aspirations of the people of America and the world. So we do not agree on these devastating military expenditures. We do not agree on an austerity budget, and we do not agree with this backroom process by which the budget is being negotiated. There's almost no discussion about it in the press, even, let alone among the public. This is an incredible outrage against our democracy, and we're here to protest that. So the other thing I want to say is that we just stopped a war that we told was inevitable, the opening of a whole new battlefront in this war on terror, and the bombing of Syria, which we were told, you know, resistance is futile, don't even try to stop it. And people just rose up and said, no how, no way, we are not going to do that. So we just stopped a crazy war. Now it's time to stop the crazy war budget that supports those wars and makes those wars inevitable. We just saw in the New York Times, I believe last week, an article noting that we've gotten nowhere in our fight against terrorism, this supposed fight against terrorism. After 10, 12 years, $5 trillion, thousands and thousands of American lives, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of innocent civilians caught in the crossfire in the Middle East, we are now told that, oh, it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. There are still terrorists all over the place, and guess what? They're spreading. So, hello, maybe this has something to do with the policy. Rather than not enough of it, we actually have too much of it. We have the wrong policy. It's time to go back to the drawing boards and end this militarism, this malignant militarism, which actually poisons the world against us. Yes. This is not working. It's making us less secure, not more secure. We're seeing that in Iraq and Afghanistan, obviously. We have not achieved security, stability, or democracy in either of those countries. We've seen Libya go, from bad to worse. It's now an absolute unmitigated haven of warlords and violence and growing al-Qaeda and associated forces. So, this policy that we can just go in and bomb our way to better government it's been proven wrong. How many times now? How many times do we need to keep making the same mistakes? And there was our fearless leaders trying to drag us into another war in Syria. We said no, and then after the fact we've heard, oops, maybe we do have to side with Assad. This is now sort of official discourse coming from Washington, D.C., that, oops, maybe we were going to bomb the wrong guys, and, oh, by the way, according to this recent investigative reporting, that maybe actually the data was cherry-picked. This is like another weapons of mass destruction all over. Instant replay. So it's the wrong military policy, it's the wrong foreign policy. The austerity is absolutely the wrong thing to do. We've seen that over and over again throughout history. We see that in Europe, where austerity policies are just making the problems worse. Poverty is the new normal. In America, 1 out of every 2 Americans now is in poverty or low income and heading towards poverty. 1 out of every 3 African Americans is in prison on parole or probation, held hostage by the prison industrial complex. 39 million students are in debt. 1 out of 6 Americans are in food assistance. This is not working. The policies of austerity are not working. Fortunately, there is a wonderful win-win solution here, and I just want to remind people of that, because we are constantly told that there is no solution. Things are so complicated. We have to throw up our hands and just sort of yield to, despair and inertia. But it's actually the exact opposite. There is a simple solution here in the form of an emergency full employment program which will put 20 million people to work, creating that sustainable green economy, a community-based economy, not a multinational corporate economy, a community-based sustainable economy that can be created at the same time we solve the economic problem, get everyone back to work, jumpstart this economic recovery. We've done it before, we know how to do it, and at the same time we put a halt to climate change and we make wars for oil obsolete. We can do that, and we can do it now. And the last thing to mention here is that this not only is a win for jobs, a win for climate, a win for peace, it also turns out to be a win for health. And in fact, that's how it pays for itself. We know this from recent studies out of Stanford, that we can actually move to 0 carbon emissions, a 100% clean, renewable energy economy, wind, water, and sun, by 2030. And it will pay for itself simply in terms of the money saved from chronic diseases that are prevented, that is from asthma, cancer, learning disabilities, heart attacks, etc. We get so much better right away from not breathing and drinking and eating the pollution that results from the fossil fuel system that it pays for itself immediately. So this is a win-win. This is the beginning. Stay tuned. Who knows when they're going to complete that budget deal? It may happen this week, but it may not happen for weeks. And whether they do or not, the fight has only begun. Stay tuned, go to our websites, let's stay coordinated, and thank you all so much for being here.